Happy Second Chance Month, and welcome back to BetterHelp's In Session series. I'm Haesue Jo, a licensed therapist and part of the clinical operations team here at BetterHelp. Today, we are thrilled to be joined by TimeDone's regional manager, Alfred Thomas. Welcome, Alfred. Alfred is a Pittsburgh native, community builder, global organizer, and campaign strategist. Alfred works to forge high-level relationships and harness community power through various tactics, including creating coalition partnerships, lobbying elected officials and government representatives, recruiting and developing volunteers, and engaging voters. He's dedicated to developing, strengthening, and nurturing alliances and working in coalitions with diverse communities, youth groups, formerly incarcerated individuals, and other advocacy groups. Alfred's approach ensures that the interests and vision of affected populations are fully represented in his work. Within this landscape of advocacy stands TimeDone, a nationwide membership community of almost 250,000 people living with a past arrest or conviction. Together, they're building strong families and communities by organizing to end post-conviction poverty. Since TimeDone's founding, they've advocated for policies that have provided more than 5 million people with an opportunity to clear an old record. So to kick things off this meeting today, I would like to know, Alfred, how are you feeling this month?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. Optimistic. It's Second Chance Month, and so looking just to continue to get this work done and seeing where it's going to go. So yeah, this is a good time.
Great. And for those that are not familiar with Second Chance Month, and admittedly, it's not something I'm super familiar with, can you tell us a little bit more about what Second Chance Month is and what it means to you?
So Second Chance Month is typically in April, and it just really talks about people who have prior convictions, giving them a chance at actually being able to clean that slate, start fresh, get a second chance. Although we say second chance, I'm a person that believes in another chance for all people. So it just practice those policies that are going to actually enable people to reintegrate back into society. Those things aid public safety, stop recidivism. And so, it's an opportunity to actually get into the deeper dive into that. And so, yes, it's a month to be celebrated.
Definitely. And I think it's not a secret for many of us in this country to know that those with prior convictions have such a hard time reintegrating back into society. And that's why we see so much recidivism. There's not a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of stereotypes. There's a lot of things that block people from being able to start back up life and find a healthy path. And I think this directly ties into TimeDone's mission. We heard a little bit about it in your introduction. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the organization is aiming to support individuals with past arrests and convictions or convictions?
We take a real hands-on approach, everything from putting boots on the ground. So working with people in their areas. We have chapter coordinators who are stationed around the country. So they build rapport with people who are actually being affected by these issues every day. We're directly impacted. I'm a person that's directly impacted, so I know what it feels like. I know what it's like to have policies that are in place that stop you from being able to find proper employment, to find proper housing. And when you look at these things on another level, just look at the hierarchy of needs and what people want to do. They want to be able to feed themselves and feed their families and be able to make sure they can provide shelter. And so there's policies that are in the way that are preventing that. And so looking at the nature of crime, and if you get upstream, and if you start actually talking to people and asking them, when did they get introduced to a criminal lifestyle, and the who's, the what's, and the when's, and specifically the why's, you will see that these are coming out of places of desperation. And if we want to stop that desperation, then we have to actually, once again, get upstream and be able to provide those resources. And so what we do as our organization, we provide those resources, whether it be an opportunity to get back in college, or workforce development, or found employment, meaningful and gainful employment. I'm glad to work at an organization that believes in providing opportunities for people who are directly impacted. So that way I can make sure that I'm connecting with people who understand those issues. Our policy team is going to hear from a person who was directly impacted, and I'm not the only one, and our legal team and things like that. And so it's an opportunity to really make sure that we're writing policy with an iron pen, that we have a soft ear, that we're empathetic, and that we're really getting the job done. And so this is just another time, and like I said, this month is about that, and our organization is about that. And so, like I said, this is a really a motivation time for me, being like, we have all these different initiatives that we face and that we go over to around the country, but this is a time where everybody can think about that we have a person in their family who's probably been impacted by the criminal justice system. And we may say, do the crime, do the time, but we want them to be able to get back on their feet and actually make a difference, be a tax-paying citizen and things like that. And so we have to get those policies that are in place that are going to allow to do that.
And I will say that I'm feeling so many things hearing you speak about this. I feel really grateful to be able to highlight the work that you are doing, the work that TimeDone is doing. You're speaking of policies that create barriers for people to re-enter society. And I think the idea and hope when somebody, after doing the time, whatever that means, is able to live. And what I'm hearing is that so many people are unable to do that. If they're turning to things out of desperation, Desperation comes from lack of, resource, lack of opportunity, and lack of belief from a society that somebody can change. As a mental health professional, I very much go into every single day knowing that people are capable of change, people are capable of healing. And sometimes that just can't be done unless you have a support system, unless you have backup from your community, from society around you. So I'm hearing that there's, just profound impact on somebody's ability to move forward after a past arrest or conviction. I'm very curious to hear from your perspective what the impact of past convictions are on mental health and well-being in general.
A lot. Once again, to get to past convictions, I want to get upstream again. I want to get to the person before they actually even commit the crime, and talk about that place of desperation, of being oppressed, of lack of resource, sometimes a lack of education, a lack of belief, um, and being able to provide those resources, and realizing that when the people start to commit those crimes and they have a moment of being incarcerated, those feelings create a feeling of mental health issues. That anxiety, living in war zones. If you drive around some of these neighborhoods where people are where they have the highest incarceration rates and the highest crime rates, they look very similar to what you would see on the news of a country that is in the middle of a war. What does that do to a person's mental health? When you're actually every day committing a crime, knowing that you're facing going to the penitentiary, and this is what you have to do to feed your child, or when you're a kid and you have parents who are not able to take care of you for whatever reason. So that's not the child's responsibility to understand why they're not being taken care of properly, but they turn to a life of crime to be able to supplement a form of income, a form of life to be able to provide for themselves. And what does that do? When we analyze that and we realize when you're being impacted by crime, you're going into a jail system that has a number of different people who have the same issues as you. And we can look at the graduation rates of people who are incarcerated. So now we're dealing with an uneducated population, not an unsmart population, but an uneducated population who has mental health issues and things like that maybe society has created. And so where is the mental health help at inside of the incarceration system? There is very little to none. That money has been cut down. And when you're released, where is that support at? If you don't have a strong safety net, being your own family system, and we can talk about those issues. You can talk about your community. We can talk about the nonprofit system. If there's actually those social services programs that are actually in place, there's not a lot of organizations like TimeDone who are actually going to put boots on the ground, put policy in place, and make sure that they have wraparound services with the people who are there and everything to make sure that they're actually being embraced with the issues that you're facing. And so the mental health is definitely an issue, and it continues to only get worse because now you're being reintegrated back into society, and you want to take care of your mother, you want to take care of your father. You want to take care of yourself. You want to provide housing and you're being told no. You want to get a job and you're being told no. Speaking on myself specifically, when I was released from prison, I have a college degree, but I was unable to find employment. I tried to work in a bakery. They told me no. I tried to work at McDonald's and they told me no. And so what that does to a person's self-esteem, your hope, your dreams, your aspirations. And all I wanted to do was get back and redeem myself and actually show my family and show myself what I was made of. And those opportunities weren't awarded to me. And so you had to continue to fight and continue to strive. And a lot of people didn't make it. And it was people who I seen fail that continued to give me motivation, but there were people who continued to push me. And so I'm only a tenth of representation of all the different people who continue to lift me up and continue to push me. And those people are still there today. And so when you talk about mental health, we have to give we lend and borrow the support systems that we have. And so we have a conversation with our state leaders where they all get on and we have conversations. And they're moving because I can hear what it's like from a person who's just now being reintegrated back into society, opposed to myself, a person who has been able to craft legislation to help a person reintegrate back into society and hear that desperation. And that's the reason why we work so hard and things like that. And so it's taxing to the mental health, but it's also taxing to a number of different things as well. And we have to continue to write like I was saying before, with a very, very, very powerful pen. We need advocates all across the board. We have to understand that this is just not a Black issue or a brown issue, but women are now being incarcerated at rates that are astonishing. 50% of the kids are incarcerated, have a parent that is incarcerated. So now we're talking about things that are generational. And why is that? Because of fear, a lack of safety. When people are actually paroled from prison when they're supposed to, they do not reoffend. Most people who don't reoffend after 2 years don't reoffend again. And so keeping them in jail longer is making it worse for everybody. That's what we do not need. And so it's really having these conversations with audiences, being able so they can understand what they're voting for, what they're trying to get passed. And so they can get these conversations in front of their different legislators and stop the lies and other conversations that are being had, because being tough on crime isn't making it safer for anybody. Money not being poured into the community is not making it safer for anybody. All of our children are being exposed to the same issues, the struggles, and the same failures of past generations. If we want to actually change something, we have to actually show love. And by showing love is being able to provide those same resources for everyone. If we want to heal a community, all you have to do is go inside of a thriving one. Go inside of a suburban community. You'll see schools that are there. You'll see grocery stores that are there. You won't see a food desert and things like that. You'll see social service programs that are actually in place inside of those communities. So when you need help with mental health, there's probably a free advocate there. When you need help with your bills, there's somewhere to go inside of that community. When you need different things, there's somewhere not too far where you can get help. But when you come in communities that are the ones that are the most impacted by violence, the most impacted by crime, the ones that we need to help, you don't see those things. And so where is that? They say most of those communities are receiving the monies for that, but it's not going there. So without organizations like TimeDone, who are actually ensuring that they're hiring people who come from those places, that know those places, that are going to make sure that they're actually fighting and striving for those communities, I don't know what will be done. And we're not the only organization, but I just know that we're one of the people who are actually making sure from the bottom all the way at the top, from our executive teams, from our CEOs, from our vice presidents, down to whoever may be, that they have an empathetic ear and they care about, what's really going on. We have people who were receiving astronomical sentence who have been in jail because of, small infractions, and they're making it seem as if shoplifting and things like this is what's driving crime and what's the reason why we're not safe at night. Those are not the issues. Mm-hmm. We have, and so really looking at what are the issues that are plaguing our community and things like that. What can we do to actually make a difference? Putting research behind fear, and putting research behind our power to we can actually solve these problems, because I'm safety based as well. So I don't want people just to be able to go free. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, let's look at the reason why people are creating crime. Let's find solutions for that. Let's be able to make sure that while people are in prison, whatever it may be, there's proper rehabilitation services. And when they come home, if you did your crime, you did your time, and then to make sure that they can reintegrate back in society so that they're able to do the things that they need to do to be productive. That's what's important. Those are the policies that we place.
So we talked quite a bit on the impact of conviction, what it does, incarceration to people, to their families, to communities, and how it affects mental health specifically. So can you speak on how the integration of mental health support into community building initiatives, advocacy efforts, what TimeDone has done in this space? I can kind of gather some of the policy changes and advocacy work going on behind legislation, trying to change laws, that kind of thing. What about mental health support specifically? You spoke on communities that don't have this, so I can guess that TimeDone is doing something to add this into communities, but would love to hear the specifics there.
So one of the things that we did was we partnered with an organization that actually provides mental health support to our members. And so you can go onto our website, you can check it out and actually sign on. And I believe it provides free mental health services to members of our organization. I don't believe that you actually have to be a member, but I believe that the access to it is on our website. Just go and sign on, and you can discover it.
Right. So even if you don't fit a particular description, if you know about TimeDone, they're making resources available to you, which could totally be a preventative activity, which I'm all about. So thank you so much to TimeDone and for you for doing all of these things. Wondering if you could share a bit more about building and engaging TimeDone's nationwide membership community. What does that look like?
That's some of the work I'm very, very proud of. Connecting with different leaders all around the country, looking to provide different trainings, so whether it be phone banking, text banking, how to actually talk to a legislative official, getting them to actually sign petitions, networking, being able to provide these therapeutic circles so we can conversate about the issues that all of us are facing, and different things like that. Right now, we're pretty soon opening up another chapter. So, I'm very excited about that. Just looking at the work that we can do, connecting our different chapter leaders around the country on call so they can actually be able to support to themselves. So, yeah, a lot of different work like that, coalition building, making sure that we're providing services across the whole continuum, so that everybody who is impacted, we will be impacted, that we have an ear in all different communities, not thinking that we have a solution to hear all be all, but letting the solution come from the people who are being impacted, and that's everybody. It's some of the work that we continue to do, some of the work that we stand by.
I'm glad that you're proud of that, because you should be. You are describing organizing, community activism. And, activism comes from a place of trying to help somebody that is down in a space that they can't really help themselves all the time.
And mass mobilization, walking people through the ladder of engagement, having a person who is just now finding out about an issue and then getting them involved, being able to then having them talk about this issue, being able to disseminate information out to their community, and then potentially now they can host a party, now they can host text baking, now they can do things. That's the true spirit of democracy. Seeing something that's wrong, being able to take a stand, and if nobody else will take a stand, then you taking that stand, being able to mobilize the people who are being impacted by that issue, but also being able to feel the voices of all and being an advocate. So I'm proud of that's things that I believe in an extremely nonpartisan way. It doesn't matter about who you are, it's about what the things that you're going to do to put in place to make the world a better place. Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, you're spreading awareness. You said something very important about people taking a stand, and folks cannot take a stand if they don't know what the issue is to take a stand on. And I think when you're spreading awareness about the challenges that, people in this particular kind of experience are facing, I imagine part of that is also challenging public perception, reducing stigma around the idea of what a person that's been incarcerated or has a criminal record looks like, is going to behave like. The reality is we can't predict the behavior of anybody. We can't tell the future. And unfortunately, that is where a lot of these restrictive policies, I think, come from, trying to predict the future, thinking that exactly how this person's going to behave in a different point in time that we're not at yet. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about what can be done from so many other people to challenge those kinds of perceptions. I think those with this kind of record often become dehumanized. Their identity to others becomes, you're a convict. And that's kind of like the end of it for so many people. So would love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think it takes organizations like us to continue to get in front of as many people as we can. I think it takes for organizations to be able to hire people who know the landscape of the different communities that they're looking to have impacted. I think it also takes for all of us as a people, mankind, to realize that we don't have all the answers, to realize that to find out what we're going to do to make this world a better place, we need to open up our ears. We need to have conversations. The narrative has to be built. So many times we're looking at people as from a form of disadvantage and not as from the advantage. We're not able to actually asset frame these communities and understand what they bring to the table. We're allowing media and other forms of improper media to paint a narrative and a story and a picture that is not true. Getting upstream and looking at the socioeconomic conditions that create crime, that create violence. What can we do to stop that? Having conversations like restorative justice conversations with people and asking them why they did what they did. When I was doing when I was doing violence prevention work, I went out into the community and I asked people, why are you out here? What can I do to help you not be out here? And sometimes it was simple as a job. Sometimes it was a family situation. Sometimes it was a housing situation. And when you provide that solution, that resource, people no longer want to put their lives on the line. I had a conversation with a person earlier today, and I asked them, what would you do if you only had 6 months to live? And he said, I probably would live my life to the fullest. And I said, what would you do if after that, the doctor told you that you had another chance to live, that you were going to live, you would, be appreciative. You would probably right some wrongs and do things like that. That's what people who with a record are looking for. A lot of times coming from a sense of desperation, of hopelessness, you're not thinking long term.
You're surviving. You're trying to survive.
You're trying to survive for today. But if you give that person an opportunity of another chance, I'm sure that they would excel in their position. I'm sure they would be a better father. I'm sure they wouldn't want to go into incarceration. I'm sure that they would right the wrongs that they were faced with. And so we have to allocate that opportunity.
I'm thinking back to something you mentioned, looking into suburban communities that have all the resources, provided to them. They have all these things accessible. The difference between a child that comes from a home of love and support and one that comes from, place, like you said, with parents that have a variety of reasons of not being able to do that, it's palpable. Those differences are so noticeable in young children, and they turn into adults that have opportunities to make different decisions. And if they just have somebody behind them, supporting them, believing in them, it seems to make so much of a difference. And so thank you so much, Alfred, for being part of such incredible movement to make that difference and continue to try to help people that are just people, just like us. And they just need the same kind of support and love that so many of us were lucky enough to have ourselves. To wrap up, I'm wondering if there's anything else that you would like to add. I see here on your background that people can go to timedone.org to learn more. Anything else that you'd like to share?
I just want to emphasize again to be a seeker of knowledge yourself. Have a conversation with your different legislators about, what is safety? What are the things that are making their community safe? Find out that data for yourself. It's there, it's accessible. Don't depend on me or another organization or anybody to give it to you. And if you do that, and if you look at what are actually things that are going to make your family safer, what is going to make America a better place, I think that we would agree more than we would disagree. And that's where we can find common ground. And that's when we can do what we all came to do.
Thank you so much. Very well said. So thanks again for your time, for your wisdom and your energy today. Take care.
Thank you.